Really, you want to have that conversation?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Oldham County Fiscal Court. I'm David Vogel, Judge Executive. Happy to have all of you here today for our meeting on the first day of August of 2023. If you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tara Long, will you please call the roll?
Magistrate Likens.
Here.
Magistrate Tice.
Here.
Magistrate Woosley.
Here.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Here.
Magistrate Hounds.
Here.
Magistrate Hawkins. Here. Magistrate Dye.
Present.
Magistrate Logston.
Present.
Judge Vogel.
Here. Having all members of the fiscal court present, this meeting is now in session. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any additions to the agenda or deletions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Before we begin our meeting, I'd like to take just a moment to remember former Oldham County Judge Executive Dwayne Murner. Dwayne passed away this last Saturday, and certainly we're saddened to hear the news. Dwayne was county judge from 2010 to 2007 to 2010, end of 2010, and was a magistrate here for 8 years prior to that. Some of the gentlemen seated here today, the dais, had the pleasure to, including myself, of working with Dwayne, a very fine, kind individual who accomplished many things during his term as a county judge. I'm not going to try to elaborate on all of them, but I remember he began with a vision council and tried to pull a number of leaders together in the community to set the vision for what our future would be for the next 5 to 10 years. And that was a successful undertaking. He did many other things, and there is an obituary that's, I guess, been listed now in the Courier Journal, and his funeral will be here in a couple of weeks. So we're sorry when anyone passes away, and particularly someone who's provided fine public service and sacrifice to our community in the manner of Dwayne Murner. So I'd like to ask now that we have a moment of silence in his memory. Eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. May his soul and all the souls of the faithfully departed rest in peace. Amen. Thank you, and now we'll go on with our agenda for today. Is there an approval of the minutes from our last meeting?
We haven't read them yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Oldham County Fiscal Court convened at 2:04 p.m. with Judge Vogel, County Attorney Barry Baxter, and the following magistrates in attendance: Likens, Tice, Woosley, Jeffries, Hounds, Hawkins, Dye, and Logston. Motion was made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to approve the agenda. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to approve the minutes of June 29th. Motion carried unanimously. Becky Zocklin, Solid Waste and Recycling Grants Coordinator, announced the waste tire collection event to be held on September 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Members of the Oldham County Aerial Response Team presented the types of drones used, the circumstances when drones are used, and the future plans for their team. Carly Payton and Brian Dillard of the Rogers Group presented Oldham County Fiscal Court with a check of $33,500 to benefit law enforcement. Sheriff Wakefield presented the 2022 property tax settlement. Motion made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to authorize Judge Vogel to sign the property tax settlement as submitted. Discussion followed. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Logston to approve the payment of the payables as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Likens to transfer the 2014 Ford Explorer to South Oldham Fire Department as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Constable Saylor requested that the fiscal court allow him to install blue lights in his vehicle. Discussion followed. No motion was made. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to authorize Judge Vogel to sign the Oldham County Stormwater District Services Agreement as submitted. Discussion followed. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Logston to authorize Judge Vogel to sign the Thompson Reuters Clear Account Contract as submitted. Discussion followed. Motion carried unanimously. Motion was made by Magistrate Hawkins and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to award EEI the bid for the Household Hazardous Waste event in the amount of $34,000 as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Magistrate Dye left the meeting at 3:57 p.m. Motion made by Magistrate Likens and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to award the Qualight Sports Lighting the bid for the field lights at Wendell Moore Park in the amount of $450,174 as submitted. Motion carried 8-0. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to hire Sky Brown as building monitor at $10 an hour effective July 19th. Motion carried 8-0. Motion made by Magistrate Woosley and seconded by Magistrate Jeffries to hire Hunter Smith as a 4-year lateral at $32.70 base hourly rate effective July 24th. Motion carried 8-0. Motion made by Magistrate Hounds and seconded by Magistrate Tice to hire Thomas Stettenbetz as a 5-year lateral at $32.70 base hourly rate effective July 24th. Motion carried 8-0. Magistrate Dye returned to the meeting at 4 p.m. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to renew the school resource officer contracts effective August 1st for the following officers: Greg Ford, Andrew Hamilton, Mike Head, Paul Kerr, Jim Latham Jr., Thomas Moore, Larry Bo Simpson, and Tracy Witt as submitted. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Tice and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to reappoint Barry Hampton to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term to expire August 6, 2027. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Hawkins to reappoint Katie Nasser to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term to expire August 6, 2027. Motion carried unanimously. Motion made by Magistrate Jeffries and seconded by Magistrate Woosley to appoint Ben Winters to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term to expire August 6, 2027. Motion carried unanimously. Motion was made by Magistrate Dye and seconded by Magistrate Hounds to adjourn the meeting. Motion carried unanimously, and the meeting adjourned at 4:13 p.m.
You've heard the reading of our minutes from the meeting on July 18th. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Time now for public comment. That's the time during our meeting when anyone who would like to address the fiscal court is able to do so. We usually allow up to 4 minutes to speak to the court, and if there's anyone here who'd like to do so, please come forward.
Here he comes.
And we ask you to state your name and address.
Chris, throw me that mint.
Excuse me, Larry Kaiser, 3000 Maple Leaf Drive, LaGrange, Kentucky. I just wanted to thank Judge Vogel and other members, Mr. Baxter, that came out to the forum last weekend. I appreciate you guys putting that on. Just had a couple follow-up questions. Aside from learning that more people show up in the evening, what other takeaways did you have from it, and any other plans to consider different changes or ordinances, and what you guys took away from that, and what you see happening going forward? That's all.
All right, I guess you're asking me that question. I would say that most of the good part of the discussion had to do with the school board and SRO officers, how many were out there and how many should be there. Want to catch the lights that just went down. As we mentioned at the board at the meeting, SRO officers are contracted through there are people, but they're contracted through the Board of Education. Board of Education pays their salaries. And how many there are, present, really is a function of the request by the Board of Education. Other issues that came up to be discussed, but I'm not exactly sure which ones that you feel that were presented to us, other than your request for evening meetings, that you would feel we should act upon. You requested, I believe, consideration for cannabis legalization in Kentucky, but yeah, that's an issue far beyond the ability of Oldham County Fiscal Court to have any influence on one way or another. It's a legislative issue for Frankfurt. So what other items did you think, Larry, that you were looking to have a response to?
Well, one thing that we learned, I think there were 23 guns stolen out of cars. I'm led to believe unlocked cars. If the recommendation is to lock your car, the implication is locking your car prevents the people that are coming into our county and going through cars. And so I'm led to believe that most of the theft is occurring in unlocked cars. We're not smashing windows and things like that. And I think something that we could consider locally is like an ordinance where if your gun is used in a crime and it's not behind some locked barrier, like if you lock your car and they smash your window and steal your gun, I'm not asking that gun owner to be responsible. But if your car is unlocked and someone reaches in there and gets a gun, I think the gun owner, whoever left that car unlocked and that firearm accessible, is should be subject to a fine at least. The same thing like if a kid gets their parents' gun, it's not in a locked cabinet or something like that. I think you guys could consider that as some sort of ordinance. I'm not asking to make it to where every gun owner has to be super anxious or nervous about being held liable. I am myself a firearm owner. I'm just asking that we take that into consideration. So like if there is no locked barrier or some obstacle preventing theft or use, why don't we do something about that? That's one. And I understand that cannabis is a state issue, but the same way that like firearms are typically like a national issue, this body, some of the members of this body took the time to write a letter indicating your support for such a topic, the Second Amendment letter. I forget exactly what you called it. It wasn't an ordinance, I don't think, but no. You could do something similar for cannabis. That's all. Just show our support for the state and the intention to use that funding for school resource officers. If your response to a number of things is we don't have the money for that, okay, let's find a way to get the money for that. The same way at some point I assume no one could afford a house when they were just starting out. But you work towards that goal. You didn't just say, well, I can't afford a house, I'm not going to get one. You worked towards that. You said, how can I get a house?
All right. Well, I left the meeting. It was a good meeting. It was a community opportunity to come forward and bring issues forward. But I left the meeting with the impression that most of the issues presented were ones that we couldn't address directly. But are still issues. You mentioned people breaking into cars, stealing guns. If cars are left open and somebody has a gun left in their car and it's taken and used in a crime of some kind, what responsibility does that person have? I'd have to defer to Mr. Baxter. I'm not sure if we could create an ordinance that would fine individuals. I mean, if a gun is stolen from a car, and you're going to, can we fine people on that basis, or is that a legislative issue?
Judge, I would think that would be a legislative issue as well. I mean, I think it would be very difficult to enforce an ordinance like that in the community. Obviously, and Mr. Kaiser was present, and those are issues that need to be brought to the attention of the legislature if you've got an issue, and certainly. Unfortunately, Senator Tishner couldn't be there because of an illness in her family, but those are the types of things that she's around to work for, and the members of the House that we have that live in Oldham County or represent Oldham County, which should be contacted about.
So that's we do pass ordinances here, but you can't get put in jail for violating an ordinance. You could get fined, but whether or not we can fine for something like that, Mr. Baxter advises it's a legislative issue. If you want to have different magistrates provide a letter of support in the next legislature for cannabis-related legislation. I suggest that you ask each one, and if you think you get enough support among them, then maybe you could get it among the court. But honestly, I think it'd be pretty difficult. All of us are concerned about, anything related to drugs, kids, and I realize alcohol's been out there. It's a problem that comes with with humanity. But all these drugs and things we're trying to crack down on that everywhere we can, and keep kids away from anything that's hallucinogenic. But if you feel that there's reasonable support for that past medical use for cannabis, then talk to each magistrate and see if you can generate enough support for it. Is what I'd say. So, is there anyone else who would like to address the fiscal court? All right, seeing no one, we'll close the meeting, go on to our first presentation today, and that is from the Pewee Valley Fire Department. We have Chief Board Member or Board Chairman Joe Burkhart. So happy to have you here, Joe.
Afternoon, Judge, ladies, gentlemen. Our chief, Matt York, was supposed to be in attendance, but I got a call en route that he's on a run. Somewhat important activity in our world. You have two documents that you are provided with to support this briefing. One is our tax rate, which continues at 10 cents per $100 valuation on personal property, watercraft, and vehicles. That carries on. The second is the financial report, the budget summary. We grumble a little bit about its format, but we conform to it. The first part is on our revenue. Under taxes and the government and the state, it is at about $740,000 for the fiscal year of 23-24. That's up about $100,000 over the previous year. I don't know, I don't have the statistics specifically, but that portion of Oldham County and the northern western part of Shelby County continues to develop and grow quickly along Floyd's Fork and in Persimmon Ridge and along down Aiken. That's probably the principal reason for our growth. Obviously, values are continuing to increase. It's a mixture between the two. Our carryover is $1,057,000. So our total available revenue is $1,797,000 for this coming fiscal year. Under appropriations, which I view as expenses, personnel, $129,000, and I'll speak to that increase in a moment. Operations, $363,000. Admin and reserves, $1,249,000. And capital, $56,000. Capital, a new server, hoses, lights, thermal imaging camera, something called voice amps for SCBAs, which I'm not that familiar with. Chris can give you all that data if you need it. So that balances out our 1.797 in revenues and appropriations. We also had a continuing clean opinion on our audit for both financial and internal controls, and we are very proud of that. We continue having that each and every year. I think we're in good order in that area. I mentioned personnel, 129,000. That's an increase of about 50,000. After 94 years, we opened the doors in 1929. After 94 years, we have moved from an all-volunteer department to we now have one full-time employee, and that's our fire chief. Matt York has come on to I like to say we reimburse him for 40 hours of his 168 hours a week that he devotes to the fire department. And it's our intention to thoroughly review the possibility of bringing on maybe 2 to 3 other part-time firefighters. We rely heavily on our mutual aid from our other departments, especially South Oldham, in providing support throughout the day. The board feels that we need to step up to the plate and put some additional resources into meeting our obligations both on medical and emergency runs. So we're moving in that direction. We're confident that our financial wherewithal will support that. We have done a pretty good job over the last several years making some operational adjustments, and we're conducting a study on this, and we'll probably move forward sometime during the year in that direction. That's about all I have.
All right, Mr. Burkhart, thank you. That is a good report. Does anyone have any questions on fire service in Pee Wee Valley or this budget? I don't know if I should bring it up or not, but I will. I have heard there have been discussions about possibly working even closer with South Oldham in the future. Is that anything that needs to be?
We've had several discussions. We haven't had a recent discussion. We're in a holding pattern right now. I vaguely mentioned that we have spent some time from an operational and organizational level over the last 3 years with a new chief, a new deputy chief, moving in this direction. We would like to get that in order and see how that progresses. Then we will probably, unless South Oldham comes knocking at our door again, and we'll be responsive. But until we get everything to our satisfaction and we can then move confidently on those discussions. But nothing has taken place in the last 9 months.
Okay. All right, well, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time and presentation.
Sure enough.
I would like to say in relation to fire service, there is an effort being made to organize an association of all of the fire trustees in Oldham County. We have, I believe, 6 fire departments that operate in our county. Am I correct on that? Or is it 7 if you count Anchorage, Middletown? So all of the fire department trustees and fire service personnel all have the same goal, and they all have the same responsibility in different parts of the county. So there is an effort to organize trustees to work together and share information, get to know each other, and the chiefs have an association, which we think is great, and so we support all of our fire service personnel, and we want it to be as effective and efficient as it possibly can be. And also that we have a training program underway for new board members of fire department, and with an attorney from Louisville who is extremely well versed in fire service, regulations and laws. So those are two other steps that are underway in the community. So thank you very much again, Joe, for being here today. I'd like to ask the court's indulgence because I see a couple of state officials sitting here today who are scheduled for later in our program, but our meeting. But I don't want to tie them up. If they don't, they're certainly welcome to stay if they'd like to, but they may have other functions and don't need to hear about some of the things that are going on in the county. So I'd like to ask them to come forward. Jim Sullivan to come forward. Were you going to present this, or at least introduce our rural secondary program presentation? I know we have Tom Hall and Larry Cheney and Tony Herod here today, for sure. And another person I'm not sure I know.
I've been coordinating mainly with Mr. Larry Cheney, so I think he was planning, or Tom, if you were going to present the data. So I'll turn it over.
All right.
Well, thanks and good afternoon. As Judge Vogel mentioned, my name's Tom Hall. I'm the Planning Section Supervisor at District 5 in the Louisville office. And the folks with me today are Blake Nelson. He's our branch manager of project delivery and preservation. That's maintenance and construction. And Tony Herod specializes in maintenance and construction in Oldham County. And then Larry Cheney works with me in our planning office. And the purpose of our visit today is to present recommendations for rural secondary road paving for this year, and to ask for the court's concurrence on that. The rural secondary program is a paving program, but it's a system of roads, a smaller system of roads. We call them farm to market roads. We are legislatively required to get the court's concurrence, either through a meeting minutes or through a resolution, to concur on the roads that we plan to resurface this year. And it's an annual program, so it's always good to talk about what we intended to do last year and did we accomplish that before going into what we plan for this year. What I would say is last year's program, we did intend to pave 3 roads, a portion of Kentucky 1817, that's Cedar Point Road, a section of Kentucky 1694, Sleepy Hollow Road, and then a section of Kentucky 362, which is Central Avenue. And those projects were awarded to construction last summer, and interestingly, the cost of them, like everything else, was much higher than we anticipated. Our cost estimates were in the $300,000 to $400,000 range, and the actual work cost more like $700,000. So it cost us a little more than we thought, so it kind of ate into this year's budget. But anyhow, all those roads have been paved. There was a little bit of extra work that was done, but Tony has done provided oversight on that work, and it's all taken care of and open to traffic. So we're looking forward now to what the roads we plan to pave for this year. And I say pave this year. We get concurrence, but really it's the beginning of next year when we actually get out there and pave those roads. First things first, I'd like to talk a little bit about the budget. We have a long sheet here, and I'll walk through that. And basically, we talk about the prior year balance as our first number, and we had a deficit of over $200,000 where we kind of overspent last year's money. Then we got an allotment of $700,000 for this year, our initial allotment. So putting those together, our starting balance to run the program is $491,107. And so the first thing we do is we take off the top our rural secondary roadway routine maintenance and traffic, and that's us going out there and filling potholes and doing snow and ice work, and that's what the cabinet uses to pay its employees to do that work and for materials. That's just basically routine maintenance, and it's a little cryptic looking, but the cost of that is for the year is $344,200. So we take that away from the balance of that we started with, $491,107, and we end up with just $146,907, which is not much money to do state road paving. But as we step down, there's a little note in there, a remark that says, Oldham County has requested that we use our flex funds to support our state routes. If you don't know what flex funds are, they're a portion of these rural secondary dollars that the county can use to pave local roads. And in the last 2 years, Oldham County has elected to let the state use those dollars to pave additional state routes. And that's good, because it's costing us a lot of money. And we actually didn't figure that into our accounting last year. So we actually have the flex funds that available to us for the last year and this year. So we kind of add those back to our program. And we end up having available to run the whole program, $425,722. Okay, so that's where we're starting. Right off the top, there is a KRS amount, a statutory amount that goes to the judge's office for helping us put on the program and communicating our work. That's $3,875. So we take that off, and that leaves us a balance of $421,847 to actually go out and pave a couple roads. And so the first road that we identified to pave is Kentucky 1315. That's called Hannah Road. And that is that's sort of in the southeast part of the county as it enters Shelby County. That's almost close to 1.5 miles of paving. It's just basically resurfacing. And that actually would cost us $97,678 to do that paving work. That's our estimate. That leaves a balance of $324,169. So we are going to pave another road, Kentucky 1694. That's Gum Street from Mason Lane to US 42. It's about 1 mile of paving up in the northeast part of the county. And the estimated cost to pave that will be $134,766. So the short of that is we think we can pave 2 roads this year, basically Hannah Road and Gum Street, because we kind of overspent a little bit last year. So our goal or our hope is that the court would agree to that and provide a resolution that supports us resurfacing those roads.
All right, thank you, Tom. We'll ask some questions in a minute here. Is there a motion we accept this recommendation from KYTC?
So moved.
All right, moved and seconded. All right. Discussion from the court.
Question.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Thank you for being here. The length of Hannah Road that will be paved appears to be longer than the length of Gum Street, but the price is much more for Gum Street. Could you tell us why? And then secondly, would you tell us what MP stands for in the boxes on the left?
Mile Point.
Okay.
So it's from Mile Point
Oh, okay.
X to Mile Point.
Okay.
Oh, wow. And, Tony, I think you're probably a little better at probably discussing why the estimate will be a little higher.
I'll kind of hit on some of our costs there. So of course.
Please,
gotta come
we'll
to the
ask you to come
microphone.
forward,
Yeah,
please.
sorry about that. I'm new to this, so.
All right.
So our cost per mile, of course, when Tony's the one that does the estimates, but when we go out to a road, even though it may cost $100,000 to say put the surface on, we're also looking at subgrade failures and all those. So base failures is what we call them. So if you've got a bunch of rutting, we may throw in, level and wedging or even extra. So as Tony sees fit, that's why the extra cost per mile is quite a bit higher on the other road, because I would say that the subgrade is deteriorating in that area. And some of that has to do with our deficit for last year too. When we get out to these roads, they may fall apart between when we come to you now and when we get done paving them next year. So that's where some of that extra cost comes into.
So are you essentially saying that 1694 will need to be milled However, 1350 Hannah Road will not need to be milled.
So we typically don't mill a whole roadway because what I've seen myself in the past is if we mill the whole roadway, you're actually taking away subgrade. So if you leave it there and go on top of it, you're keeping more structure for the more cars than we have than what we probably did when we built the road. So we will mill and replace base areas. So a lot of times what we'll do is go down 8 inches in an area that's rutted. Fill it completely back up with 8 inches of base, so that way we don't have that kind of rutting on the shoulders.
Okay, thank you.
Magistrate Hounds.
So last year when you guys paved a section of Ash Avenue, and Tony and I talked about this, is there was a lady that was very upset because of the approach, because there was no milling done, and she had a smaller car and says that she scrapes. It's obviously that it scrapes, because there's scrape marks on the road. I just would ask that we look at some of those driveways, and we may have to do, I don't know what you call it, but get the grade down to where there's not as much of an incline coming out of the driveway. Some of the driveways I know on Gum Street, and that's probably not going to be an issue, and on Hannah Road's probably not going to be an issue either, because they could probably build up the driveways. But this is a, Tony knows what I'm talking about.
I actually went out there and looked at the driveway myself. Went with our previous section engineer that was over the job, and we went out and looked at it and tried to work out something with her. But I think she ended up determined she was going to kind of take care of it on her own. I will say, we try to do our best as far as tying into those driveways. Sometimes it's not always there, so we urge that if you have any complaints to get with us, and like I said, we'll come out and take a site visit and see what we can do.
And you guys were very responsive. I mean, there was no issue there. I'll just leave it at that.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Just a couple questions. I'm a new member here and and a chairman of the road committee. So I think you all are doing a good job here. A couple of questions on, I know Highway 53 from Ballardsville to Shelbyville, they're, I guess, going to repave it or whatever. I know they're putting new head walls in and new culverts all the way to Shelbyville or whatever. Do you have a timeline on when the paving part of that's going to be done?
That is a very good question. So that's one project that I did not call.
You come over in front of the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So that project is actually being run out. So I'm over Jefferson, Oldham, and Bullitt counties, and my counterpart is over Shelby County. So that project is actually being run out of our Shelby County office. So I'm not certain on a timeline for that, but if I get your information, I can get back to you on that.
Okay, because I know they've got a lot of cones set up along 53 going from the Oldham County line, out to Shelby County line. So,
Yep.
I'd assumed that was going to start. Also, a couple of questions on state highway roads that potholes develop or sides break away, whatever. Do we need to just contact you all I know Jim's been good working with as far as identifying some of those areas, but we're getting some roads that are, getting some potholes and alligatoring that's taking place and on some roads that aren't listed, to be looked at to pave. So I guess the process or whatever, still continue to work with Jim Selleman.
Yes, you can work with Jim, or also too, I don't know the number right off the top of my head. Tony probably does, but you can contact our state maintenance barn, and we'll be, our foreman there will be more than happy to go out and take a look at them. And they very well could be on our radar. Of course, like everywhere, we're a little short staffed, so just trying to keep up. So
well, and Donnie Dixon, I've worked with him,
Yes,
and he does a great job.
That's who you
Him,
get a
and
hold of, so,
he
yeah.
gets out there and and checks it out and tries to take care of it. So
Yep.
one other question.
Okay.
I get my district also includes part of LaGrange and the bridges over 71. I know there's been discussions through the years as with what can be done there. There's a lot of concrete that's breaking loose and having to patch those or whatever. Is there any kind of timeline to widen those or replace them or whatever?
So we currently, all our bridges throughout the state are on a rating program, and unfortunately those are kind of further down the list than some of our other critical needs. I will say typically when we have a project that comes in the area, we try to address bridge condition, whether it be above, below, at grade, whatever. So for example, you all probably don't know, but we're actually looking at next year, there's funding to actually do a project on I-71 from the 18-mile marker to the 22, just north of the 22. So our intent is to try, when we do that at grade, interstate paving job, to actually do the work on those bridges during that project. We have been successful in, getting that because it's technically in the area, right? It's overhead. So we're hoping to try to get that funded through that. And if not, unfortunately, that stays in kind of our bridging or our structures rating program. It's kind of a different subset to us. I mean, we still have something to do with that, but we are exploring options to try to get that thrown into that interstate project. So hopefully sooner rather than later is what I'm here to say.
Thank you, sir.
The I-71 LaGrange Bridge that you're referring to is one of a number of Oldham County projects that will be reviewed next week in what is called the shift process. And all of the regional programs are in shift. Some are able to they're scored with points. Some are able to have a boost in points applied through a process that KIPTA, I believe, is where the meeting is. I've asked Jim Urban to try to push up the bridge expansion program in LaGrange for I-71. The bridge needs to be widened. We have people walking across it. We have multiple projects in our county that we're anxious to see solved, but that includes that one as well. So that's not off our radar here. Magistrate Logston.
Yes. 362 and Old Henry. When y'all repave that, are you going to raise the road bed any to keep it from flooding, or is it was that not in the design?
I will have to tell you, that is one of the probably about 75 projects that I am over. So to tell you the exact details of that area, I can't comment on that today. But like I say, I'll be more than willing to look that up and get back with you on that.
Right. Thank you.
Magistrate Likens.
Thank you, Judge. Just want to say a few things. I think when it comes to our highway department, I think the left hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. I said that correctly.
Didn't sound right.
You came in, you paved Rose Island Road 2 or 3 years ago, and it wasn't 6 months later you put 75 patches in it from the Louisville Water Company. You came in, you paved 1793. You tore it up putting in a new gas line last year, and you came in, you paved US Highway 42, which is supposed to be widened since 2010, and that hadn't happened yet. But I would like for you to contact the utility companies. I know you're supposed to do that, but whoever's doing that needs to be dragged out on the carpet and fired because they're not doing their job. That's about all I have to say, other than I'm welcoming my old friend Larry Cheney here, who I went to college with over 50 years ago. Like to say hi, Larry. How you doing?
Magistrate Dye.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. They just redid the bridge on 1694 over I-71. They rebuilt that bridge for the expansion. Well, where the bridge joints are with the roadway, there is much of a bump there now than was the old bridge. Who do I complain about that? They fixed it once already, and the bridge isn't even 2 years old.
So
Is that one of your 75 projects?
that wasn't. I don't recall that one, but it could be 76. But no, so we have an issue with bridge ends settling, and that's just something that unfortunately I've worked for the cabinet for 13 years now, and every bridge I've built brand new or repaired, we've had the same issue with. I wish I could say we knew an answer how to fix it, but we still haven't figured it out in my 13 years.
So how do I get that extra little bit of oomph over top that bump?
We'll have our maintenance crew go out there and take a look at it again and see if we can't wedge it up again and monitor that for the future.
Okay, now y'all did a great job on 1694 when you resurfaced it, but you didn't do the whole road. Are you going to do the other half? From the bridge to 329? You did?
So 1694 from the bridge, 329 was done, and then the year before or 2 years before we did from the county line to the bridge.
Oh, okay, that's where my confusion is. It was done at two different.
Are you talking about the bridge in Jefferson County just off 22?
Yeah, right before you get
Over
20.
70.
Yeah, yeah, it's a brand new bridge.
Right. So, actually, we talk about the bump at the end of the bridge, and unfortunately, what happens is when there's a new construction project, that doesn't have time to settle. They build that bridge and then they pave it, and then over time it settles. So
Right.
we'll have to wedge that up. So that'll actually be, we've got a contract with Louisville Metro government to
Mm-hmm.
maintain all of our routes in Jefferson County with exception of the interstates.
Right.
So we'll have to get a Louisville Metro crew out there to wedge
Yeah,
at the joints.
yeah. I knew that Metro and you all had an agreement.
Yeah.
Now, on that same vein, on 22 at Chamberlain Lane, someone gets out there and tinkers with the timing of the lights for when one of the churches out there let out on Sunday morning. And so in the afternoon or in the early morning or the afternoon, it's a bad traffic situation. You got cars backing up. Like if you're going from 22 towards town, right there at Chamberlain Lane, you got enough time to get about 3 cars through that intersection going, I guess it would be south.
And we could, so that's just on Sunday morning?
Well, they tinker with it, and because I know what they're doing. They're trying to get the cars out. I get every bit of that, but I don't have a problem with that. If you're gonna mess with the timing of the lights, then put them back where it was when you're done. But they
I
don't.
mean, who's tinkered? I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to say Louisville traffic, but yeah, it's Louisville. It's LMPD traffic unit. I'm sorry, I slipped
Because I
out.
know we have a set time on that, so are they?
They're inside the box.
Oh, okay, so they're manually doing that?
Yes.
Okay,
Somebody's got the key.
yeah.
So,
Magistrate Woosley.
can y'all work on that?
We'll look
We'll
into that.
ask.
All right.
Magistrate Jeffries actually just mentioned Donnie Dixon, and I was just going to bring him up. He does a wonderful job here in the county. He's very, very responsive. Anything we ask him to do, he responds almost immediately. He's responded on the weekends, so just want to make sure you guys know he's very well appreciated out here.
Yeah, I work close with him, and so does Blake, and he's doing a fantastic job and does all he can do with the staff he's got. I think he's got 5 guys down there, so we're thin, but
Yeah.
he does all he can.
Before I let you out of here, I'm going to mention 524, because I know I'd heard that it was shoulder work was this year and paving next year, but you're not going to be able to pave it with what little monies you're getting. So what's the plan there on rehabbing that road?
524 is 12 miles long. We only have so much money to work with. As you see, we had, $300,000 to work with. It cost $100,000 a mile to pave it if there's not a lot of base failures. So, our paving cycle on the RS, unfortunately, is many, many years. So, I just try to evaluate all the rural secondary routes and the traffic that's on them and do what we can do to, spread the asphalt out. So, we'll take a look at it definitely.
I was told from David Osborne's office that there was a special appropriations going to be put in for 524 for next year's budget. So is that?
Well, I don't know.
I can't be for certain, but I want to say I do remember seeing something come in through about 524 and some funding. So
Okay.
I can't be for certain on that, but I think I did see something.
Magistrate Tice.
Yes, over here. I have a concern. It's a bridge project in Oldham County, and it's on 53, and it's the one just outside of Ballersville, going down in the dip. I've traveled that road my entire life. It scares me every time I go across it. Am I falsely concerned, or is this a bridge that would concern the state? And are there thoughts about replacing it and widening? As you go down there, if you're just not careful, you just, more times than not, if I see somebody coming, I stop. It's almost like it goes on in my mind. It's a one-lane bridge. Don't get on that with another car. So I don't know what your accident rate is, but is it a concern to the state, or am I over-dramatizing this thing?
So unfortunately, as part of the project that Blake was talking about that runs from the Shelbyville bypass to Ballardsville, they're not going to address widening that bridge at all. And we've asked about it, as long as you're doing this project, can we do something to the bridge? And they're not.
And that's what triggered me. When you said you're redoing the asphalt, I'm thinking, is there something you haven't said? And obviously...
Yeah, I don't think they're going to address much on the bridge.
No, I'll step back up here a little bit closer to this. I
Oh,
know
yeah.
in the past, so I was also part of one of those. They call those a Highway Safety Improvement Program project. And there was one of those done in Shelby County with the same type of bridge, a narrower bridge. And they went in and did some kind of safety work as far as the curb work, but they also did not widen it. So I would make the assumption that bridge is probably not being widened also. But once again, something that we care about and we've pushed to try to make it wider. It's just, like I said, all in programs for us.
So you all understand what I'm saying, even though it's not there. I just, more and more of the concrete at the end of the bridge is getting chipped off from cars hitting it and knocking it away.
Correct.
So,
You are correct.
okay, thank you anyway.
I believe last year there was some opportunity to talk about bridges, and I did bring that bridge up, and I think we're thinking about the same bridge. I was told it's been there since 1939.
I believe that.
So,
I'm not quite that old. But.
You know, although I guess it's 100 years to get it fixed, or do all right. A couple more here.
Yeah, just
Magistrate
follow up
Jeffries.
real quick. Yeah, I've talked to some folks at the state because that is my area also, and I've kind of gotten the same word. There's no thing that's being considered on that bridge or replacement or widening or whatever, and I drive over that bridge all the time, and it's not safe, and so. But hopefully, somewhere down the road, it can be looked at and addressed and maybe replaced because it's it's been there since I think the judge said 1939.
Like I said, the bridge section, they've got a certain budget to work with, and fortunately they're looking at all 120 counties,
Right.
and all the bridges that are in those counties, so they're prioritizing them, as they think, deem necessary. So, believe me, we've made a bunch of noise about the 53 bridge, and the ones here too. So
We'll keep hammering.
yeah.
I'm going to ask a couple of minor questions here before we wind up or make a comment or two. One, I appreciate the new lights. They probably don't have anything to do with this. Maybe you do. New lights at 393 and I-71. That's improved safety there a lot. But I have heard this same comment from a number of people that as you're heading, I guess it would be south, heading out, on the, let's say, the new Kroger side of the bridge, if you had a flashing light or anything to warn people that there were going to be stoplights on the other side. A couple of people have mentioned that, and I think it's reasonable to say that there's,
So Sheriff Wakefield contacted me a couple of days ago, and I emailed our Kevin Bailey, our traffic engineer, and they are going to put a light on the north side of the bridge going south.
great.
So you can see.
Well, it
what
gives
that light
gives
is.
anybody, if you live here, you learn the system. But do you know any of you know anything about the progress at this point of the 393 I-146 underpass? I mean, I know this is not
I would
real
just say-
secondary, but you might know something.
Yeah, I would just say that our design folks are coordinating with the rail company, and that's a real big challenge. But I think there's some preliminary utility work going on right now.
We've got pipe work going on out there.
and that's good, but that's not moving the railroad, and that's the bigger nut to crack. But I don't know that we have a letting date set just yet.
The other comment I want to make, and I know that you're not responsible for it, but you guys are in the transportation cabinet, you talk to each other, things just like we do here, word gets around. The new Kroger's coming, the exit to the Kroger is going to be on Commerce Parkway. The backside of the Kroger lot, you're going to come out and turn right or left to get onto Commerce Parkway. If you turn left, you'll come down to the intersection of Commerce and 393, which now has stoplights all over the place. Some of us here think if that were turned into a roundabout, it would be a lot more easy to maneuver through that area. So we raised the issue with the upper echelon at the cabinet, but, you guys go to meetings, but, if you can promote a roundabout there, I think it would benefit Oldham County. So get everybody moving in and out. One more question, and we'll call it quits.
Back to 393, and perhaps I was reaching out to the wrong person. I've been reaching out to Matt Bullock about that light at 393 and 71. When you're northbound, also, the time that it's yellow is very short. So if you're coming down at 55 miles an hour going north, you either have to run that red light or you have to hit your brakes pretty hard, even at 55. So I tested it out today knowing that you all were coming, and I was going 45. And that's still, so I think we need to lower that to 45 prior to the light, or keep it yellow longer. And in addition, I've had phone calls about if somebody is coming off of Elder Park, taking a right, going north now, if you're hauling a dump truck or horses, there's not very much warning that that there's even a light there. So with some kind of indication, like the judge was saying, when you're coming southbound, but I'll add to that going northbound as well. If we could add that light, a light indicator sign or light indicator light. Okay.
All right.
Just one thing real quick.
Okay. One more, and then.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan, and we've been working, I've gotten several phone calls too about that same issue.
Okay.
And the state, I think her response was that was going to say 55. We thought maybe it needed to be lowered to, 45 or, whatever. But the state says no, their studies and their engineers said, that they're going to keep it at 55. So, I think that was a concern, and that's still a concern of some folks in the area that travel that all the time, that, you got 55 coming up to those bridges, and you can't see those lights till you get close to the bridges. So there's some concern, with that. So I would concur with Magistrate Hawkins.
Okay, all right.
All right, now I'll add the last word, okay? I'm under the impression that, and some of these would be rural, maybe none of them be rural secondary, I guess, but in school zones, the reduced speed around the school is not the same in every school around the county. Wouldn't they all, drop down to exactly the same speed? I mean, one, I can think of a 25 and a 35, and is it environment or location or something?
I'm not sure. I know the one on the bypass is reduced to, is it 35 or 45? Most of them are 25. But the one on the bypass is higher than that, and I'm not sure how they determine that.
I did a brief stint in traffic and permits, which is our branch that covers that, and I believe it's based upon the roadway in that area's speed limit, and it's reduced by 10 mile an hour, I believe.
Well,
that could be why they're varying. Is the in that area, the speed limit is already lower.
Right. Well, 45 seems a little severe there, because pulling buses out of that school right there. I've had people say, I'm afraid I'm going to get T-boned there, a bus driver, by somebody coming out of there and coming a little too fast. So anyway, hey guys, and Larry didn't speak today. He's had a few words, I guess. I don't know, but you're certainly welcome to come up and speak. But thank you very much for coming. This is the first time, I think, in 3 years the cabinet's been back here, and we hope we haven't scared you off, that you'll come back again, and we appreciate everything you do to help our county.
We appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Cards here.
We'll go on now to the regular, we back up to county administration.
We didn't.
Oh, we didn't vote there. We got a vote. Okay, we had a motion and a second to accept the recommendations from the state. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're on payables, and when you're ready.
There's always a motion to pay.
Second.
All right. Is there a second? I guess, did you second it, Michael?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any discussion here? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Polly Helton, deceased animal removal grant application.
Good afternoon. We're applying again for the deceased animal removal grant. This grant helps county residents with the proper removal of deceased livestock. It also helps with the removal of deceased deer on county roads. We're asking for the authorization for Judge Vogel to sign the deceased animal removal grant application and any other related forms for this grant, and to authorize myself, Polly Helton, to act as the administrator for the grant.
I'll make that motion, Judge.
Second that.
All right. Any discussion on this? It's for $5,000 from the state,
Correct.
and we pay the rest.
Correct. We get $7,500 from the conservation
Conservation,
district as
okay.
well.
All right, hearing no questions, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. Next item is GRW engineer contract for Belinda Demas.
Good afternoon. This is Amendment 1 to an existing agreement with GRW Engineers, approving an increase of $3,360 to pay for additional resident project representative services for the Buckner Connector or the Commerce Parkway Extension Project. GRW is Oldham County Water's engineering consultant, and they were involved in the Buckner Connector project because there is an existing water line inside the project area that had to be relocated for construction of the road. The increase is necessary to compensate GRW for an additional 40 hours of labor plus 1 week of per diem allowance. Changes during construction made this additional labor necessary. KYTC has agreed that the work was necessary and that the cost is appropriate. There is adequate funding for the cost increase in the project budget, which is federal dollars, which we are matching with land donation value that we received during the right-of-way phase. We are asking fiscal court to allow Judge Vogel to sign the amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on this?
Judge, can I comment one thing?
Yes, sir.
Before they sent this to me to review, they sent it to me and asked if it was necessary. And it's included in the contract to begin with, and I think that we're doing this out of an abundance of caution. But I think it's part of the contract already, so.
Okay. All right, thank you. So it's not necessary, but nevertheless, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Abstain.
Thank you. All right, what's that, 8-1? One abstention, all right.
Thank you.
All right, next item, Gary Parsons is going to brief the court on planned food truck festival.
Good afternoon, everybody. Gary Parsons, Parks Director. For the past 3 years, we have done a food truck festival down at Schomburg Park. This year, we've decided to move it up to Wendell Moore, a bigger park, bigger parking area. And in doing that, we had the opportunity to get a big name band, singer, I guess, really, to come to our festival this year, J.D. Shelburne, who just put out an album last Friday with some collaboration with, oh, wow, I just forgot the band's name. Oak Ridge Boys, thank you.
Look at you go, Christian.
How did you know that? Yeah,
and he's done many shows. He's from Taylorsville. He's from the area. He's looking he was looking really hard to find something in this area to play, and this opportunity came up. So I'm asking the court to give Judge approval to sign the contract with J.D. Shelburne to play at our food truck festival. In his contract, he's doing all of the sound. He's bringing all the equipment. He's doing all the lighting. That is stuff that I would have to rent on a normal basis. So,
And he's doing sound for the whole day, right?
he's doing the sound for the whole day, except for the very first band, which they're going to do their sound because they're a little bit of different band. He's doing the acoustic. They're more of a band. He is doing the sound for the second act, which is this gentleman's traveled with him several times also. But he does great concerts. He brings in thousands of people.
Okay, is there a motion to approve this contract?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion here?
It's October 7th. I don't know that you mentioned the date, but it's October 7th.
I did not. October 7th, yes.
Okay, now where is he going to set up?
The stage will actually be on the basketball court in the park, facing the lake. So everybody that's watching him will have that whole grassy area to watch from.
How many people do you think we can accommodate there?
I mean, we usually put 1,000 in there for a fireworks show.
Okay. Parking where we normally expect parking to be?
Yes.
All right. And is there any rain, protection, or what do we, outdoor things, love them, but they're risky.
I typically rent a canopy for them, but JD actually said he preferred not.
Okay.
So I didn't rent one this year. I'm renting a stage, but not a canopy to cover it.
All right. What about shelter for concert goers if we had a problem? I guess would.
We have the shelters in the park they can run to.
Right. Well, I think it's great. I hope it's a big success. And what about how many food trucks do you say?
We typically try to get 4 or 5. We don't want too many because then they don't make money. But we try to have about 4 or 5 food trucks, a couple beer vendors. Last year we actually had a wine vendor, and then a couple of dessert trucks.
Do we have any? We have a contract with the food trucks.
Not really a contract. I mean, we do send them something to sign just to say that they're going to be there, and we actually ask them to give us, I think it's $300 or to hold their spot. And as long as they stay the entire time and serve food the entire time during the show, we give that back to them. It's kind of an
Right.
incentive
I was just
to stay.
wondering if we had any escape clause, or 3 people say they're coming, then they don't show up. It kind of kills the food truck part of the
Right,
festival.
and if that happens, then I keep their money, and and then the other food
You
trucks
go buy
make a lot of money.
hamburgers for everybody. Yeah, okay.
And that has happened. Last year we had one. They had truck problems, issues. Their engine didn't. They had to take it in the shop, so they couldn't be there, and they didn't call us until that morning. But all the other food trucks just made more money because they had more people.
Magistrate Hounds.
Gary, on this contract, it says March the 2nd. So are we good with the dates changing?
Yes, the March 2nd, we started working with this with JD and his group long before that, and I told them all along. I said, nothing will be signed, no contract will be signed until after July 1 because it is in this year's fiscal year. They went ahead and sent the contract anyway. We just held on to it. I can call them quickly and have a new contract with a new date on it. I'll have it by tomorrow.
I mean, I'm okay if the county attorney's okay. We change the date and everybody initializes the date change.
Right.
But that's up to Barry to
I
decide.
don't have an issue with that. And I would note that Gary sent this to me, and when I e-signed it, I got ahead of myself. I think my approval is dated August 31st instead of July 31st. So, but I looked at it and approved it yesterday.
Our copy doesn't have your signature on it, so.
Well, Tara's got it somewhere. Tara pointed out my mistake to me, so she was more than happy to let me know that I'd screwed that up.
She let me know too.
The other piece of this is it talks about in here, it says publicity, advertising. Do we have a plan to publicize this to make sure that we do get the bang for the buck?
That's what I'm working with them to make sure they're advertising in the Louisville area and this area. I'd say from now working with LaGrange Crossroads, which will have ads on that. So that actually saves me also because last year I ran, I think, about $2,000 in radio ads for the Food Truck Festival. Now they're taking care of that. I don't have to purchase that. But I want to make sure they're doing this area too to get it out.
Okay.
And then we'll put it up on our signs, and we'll put it in the park, and I'll have banners in all the parks. So, did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Magistrate Woosley.
Magistrate Hounds, JD actually has, it's called a small town tour that he's promoting, and so we're on that promotion that he's putting out. So he has a big social media following that he's also pushing it out. So.
And once the contract's signed, we'll actually be listed on his shirt too. So
That's a different singer than is talking about don't do that in a small town right now, isn't it?
Different singer.
Different
Yes,
person.
different singer.
something else.
Not Jason Aldean.
Whatever. Okay, great. I think we got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. The approval of change order for 18 Mile Creek, Jim Silliman. And,
Thank you. Jim Silliman, County Engineer. What you have before you is a change order to Louisville Paving's contract for they began work in for the spring 2023 paving of 18 Mile Creek Road, which included replacement and addition of new culverts, paving, road patching. We also did work through a Guardian retention system through our road improvement funds from the fiscal year 23 monies to do bank stabilization along 18 Mile Creek Road at the same time. So around the end of June, that work was all complete. Well, we'll say 99% complete. There was a little bit of guardrail left to be replaced as part of that project. Unfortunately, on Saturday, July 8th, there were some significant rain events, and it seemed to be concentrated or more intense from LaGrange and north to Westport, and it brought a lot of debris down off the hillside and clogged several culverts and caused water to overtop the road. And as this water is churning, it degraded some of the new road bed and some of the pipes that had just been installed at the head wall or the upstream end of those pipes. So the road department, Ben Kimbler and his crews, were able to address the critical areas and safe them up for the next few days. We had more rain the following weekend that did a little bit more damage. We've communicated with the Kentucky Rural and Municipal Aid Program that offers emergency road funding. And what you see before you is the proposal from Louisville Paving to address 7 culverts by doing work to add some protective head walls on these that we didn't previously really need. Now we do. That's $119,217. This morning I received approval from the Rural and Municipal Aid Department that they will fund 80% of that. The additional amount, there's an $11,897, which is some guardrail that was identified during construction that needs to be added, including a guardrail end section. So of this total amount of $131,114, again, $97,180 has been approved to be covered by the KYTC municipal aid program. And we would, actually, the way they expedite that program, expedite is an understatement. Again, they approved it within 24 hours, and they plan on issuing a check in the amount of 50% up front. And then after we've completed the work, based on actual amount paid, they pay the remainder. So there is, you will see there's also a couple, it says $750 per location. Depending on the amount of pavement restoration that's required at each one, because again, this was all repaved and we're trying to minimize the amount of damage to the new surface, but if there is some damage done, they'll have to fix that. So per location, we might have an additional $750 charge. We wanted to separate that in case we didn't need to pay it. So again, my request is that fiscal court approve this amount so I can get Louisville Paving working on this as soon as possible.
Judge, I'll move that we approve this payment, and they'll pay 80%, and we'll be responsible for the 20%?
That's correct.
Okay.
Second that motion.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on this? Magistrate Likens?
Jim, did you extend their extra 36-inch pipe or culvert head walls to see that they were in line? I'll start over. Did you extend like you would unit prices for their extra work and kind of make sure they were where they're supposed to be on a change order?
So most of the pipes didn't have to be, we had existing unit prices for pipes. Most of them were long enough that we're just able to build head walls on the end of them. There's really only 2 or 3 of the 7 culverts that require that extension. Mm-hmm. So really most of this work doesn't match any of the work we had already planned. It's a lot of cast in place head wall work. They're not going to be bringing down precast structures because that would require heavy equipment. These culverts there's one 18-inch, most of them are 36, but there's also a 48-inch culvert. So these are going to be heavy head walls, so they want to cast them in place.
Well, I'm sure
so again, it's fairly unique work.
Probably looked at it that way before they approved it.
And again, yeah, KYTC has seen the pricing that Louisville Paving provided us, and they've approved it also. And again, this cost is distributed among 7 locations.
Magistrate Woosley, Magistrate to Hounds, I'm sorry.
The original 18 Mile Creek project,
Correct.
did it come in under budget? It's okay if you don't know the answer.
No, and I'm trying to remember. So the amount was, it was 554,000, and I think it came in very close because the paving bids were very competitive. So I think the answer is yes.
Okay, so is there, I guess, the second piece of that question is there enough money in that to cover our 20%?
So budget-wise, the way we're looking at this is because that original project was using the fiscal year '23 paving budget, we'd pretty much maxed that out. But now we're in a new fiscal year with another $2,550,000 budgeted for paving. This would be drawn out of the paving budget. And so again, the balance is around between $20,000 and $30,000. So there should be plenty in that paving budget to address this.
Okay, well, why aren't we taking it out of the $360,000 or whatever the number is that we put in there, the additional money for road right-of-way improvements?
And I mean, I guess there's different ways you could classify this.
Well, I mean, we got plenty of roads to pave.
Sure.
We got plenty to pave, and last year we didn't use that money.
Well, no, what we did, we used a significant amount for that bank stabilization. Again, we spent
Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong.
$249,000 on the bank stabilization, and that came out of the.
That come towards the end of the budget year then?
That is correct.
Okay, because for the longest time.
That's correct. It was anticipated to use it for culvert replacements where we weren't already paving. But when this bank stabilization need came upon for timing reasons with the paving project, we ended up utilizing that.
I see. I would rather not mess with the paving money. We've got plenty of roads to pave. Let's take it out of the road improvement side of it.
We could do it either way, and I guess really that's not what we're asking to approve today.
Well,
so we can.
I
understand.
approve this. I get that. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure where the money's coming out of at the end.
And the reason I had proposed, or I was thinking we would take it out of utilize the paving funds, is because the culverts that we did replace, typically if we're doing paving, that is part of the paving project. So I was just going along
18
with
mile,
that. But
this is a whole
it's
different
very
animal.
unique.
It's
It is.
very different
You're
animal.
right. So I
Okay.
think we can certainly have that discussion. But either way, there are ample funds
Understand.
available.
Makes sense now. Thank you.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Could this be considered a stormwater project since it was created?
No,
through stormwater?
again, because it is more tied with that paving project. And when we're replacing culverts, when we're doing a paving project, we tie those two together. We don't separate them stormwater.
Magistrate Woosley.
I was called on this on the next evening, so Sunday evening, about dusk, and I notified Mr. Silliman almost immediately, and within an hour, he was actually out there. This was caused, as he said, because of some clogged culverts that, because all of the limbs and things that washed down. And since then, we've tried to do some education for the neighbors out there and across the district, really, is if you see these culverts that are clogged, to call your magistrate or call the road department, let them know. They'll come out and clear those out so that this doesn't happen again.
All right, I think we have a motion and a second on the floor for this. Is there any further discussion on the Louisville paving project, supplemented by rural and secondary funding at 80%? That's pretty good, $97,180. I was thinking we might get $80,000 on that, but we got more than we thought, and so appreciate that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We'll go on now to the under committee reports and recommendations. Parks Committee, John Black Aquatic Center.
We forgot the bond.
Performance bond.
We're going to
Pardon me?
recommend to
Performance
release
bond, Judge.
performance bonds.
Oh, release of performance bond. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, and this is a recommendation from my office to release the performance bond for Heather Ridge Section 2. And this did not, I didn't have an opportunity to take it to Road Committee for recommendation ahead of this, but I have spoken with Chairman Jeffries, Chairman of the Road Committee. So we're here for you. And the reason it didn't go to Road Committee originally is because the sidewalk repairs that needed to be done for this to be approved were just completed a couple weeks ago. And the bond or the letter of credit that currently is in place actually expires the end of this month. So to go to Road Committee first and then come here, I couldn't get an answer to the developer in time, so we wanted to go ahead and bring it immediately to fiscal court. And if fiscal court agrees to release this letter of credit, then we
I
can
believe,
notify.
didn't it expire at the end of July?
Yes. I think it expires August 24th. It has not expired yet, but.
And, okay, I thought it was going to expire last month, and we were asking for this because we didn't want to have him renew it for one day.
Well, exactly. In order to go to Road Committee and then fiscal court, I wouldn't be able to make that August 24th date, but by doing it here today, we can at least know ahead of time, and we've not let that lapse. Again, then we can let the builder not have to renew it for an entire year if their work is complete. No. So the surety is in the amount of $31,928, and again, they have completed the work necessary for the bond to be released within this section.
Manager Jeffries?
I just wanted to ask, do we need to split this up as two motions?
Yes.
Because we've got, we're going to accept, move to accept them into the county road fund, or county road system.
That's the intent.
Right. So I'll move that that we release the bond on these as proposed by our county engineer, Jim Silliman.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Kevin Woosley.
Okay. Any discussion here?
Yes.
Magistrate Tice.
This is in the district, and this flows into Greenfield, not Greenfield, but help me.
Heather Green.
And is this the one where we were trying to make sure that everything was satisfactory before we released the bond to the pond? What
you and I were addressing specifically was the Heather Ridge Section 1 erosion control. That's still under construction, and the developer is doing the work that we recommended.
And that was Section 1. That's not the one we're talking about
That's
today.
Section 1, and it's erosion control. This is Section 2, and it's performance. So they're related, but not.
They're next door, but they're not the same thing.
That's correct.
That's all I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
All right, any further this questioning or anything? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll take the motion about accepting the roads.
So the second recommendation would be that the fiscal court take Chelsea Meadow Way. It's a length of 332 feet, Devonshire Drive, a length of 482 feet, and Heather Wood Drive, a length of 546 feet, all within Heather Ridge Section 2 into the Oldham County Road Maintenance System.
Make that motion.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion on this motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're at the Parks Committee, item G, the John Black Aquatic Center update. Magistrate Woosley.
The Parks Committee met in special session this morning. We met a couple of weeks ago. We heard from our contractor as they were working on the pool that the steel buttress system around the pool has got some significant rust in it, and they've given us a couple of options to fix that. And Gary Parsons, our Parks Director, is here today to discuss that.
So when they took the concrete decking out, they could see at the top of the top small portion of the buttresses, they could see they were rusted. So they went ahead and dug down all the way down to the bottom of the buttresses in one area, in the shallow area, and noticed that the upper half is rusted. The bottom half looks really good. When they built the pool, they just painted the buttresses instead of putting a coating on them to protect them from water damage. At that time, I asked them to go ahead and dig in another spot where I knew they were going to have to dig deep anyway, to look at the buttresses there to see if they were similar or if this was just an isolated area of the pool. When they dug down, had the same result. The upper half, I think the upper 30 inches or something, was rusted, wasn't coated properly. The bottom half was fine. They've suggested, we've talked about it, they gave us two options. One, to sandblast and recoat the entire buttress, dig it all the way around, recoat the whole thing, or just dig down 30 inches and do just, or a little bit further, but sandblast the top 30 inches, recoat it the way it should be. That way this will last another 20, 25 years. If you don't know what a buttress is, it's a metal triangle essentially up against the edge of the pool, which holds the wall in place, keeps it standing without, so it doesn't bow in and cave in. So Parks Committee, we met, discussed it, and we recommend doing option 2, which is the top 30 inches of the buttress, sandblasting, recoating, and moving on from there.
Part of our discussions today included the construction company as well as our architect for the pool. The construction folks say this is no more real surprises from here on out. This is the base of it. It is a lot of money. Today we're asking for another $174,000, but he believes we'll get another 20 years out of this. And I don't want to jump ahead, but the Parks Committee at some point is going to look at maybe converting the existing pool into an natatorium with some additional developments around the pool, connecting it to the John Black Center. Our goal right now is to get this pool open by next spring. They tell us that if this is approved today, they'll get started working tomorrow on this buttress system, and it would not delay the opening of the pool, still for early next year.
That's still the plan. It's not going to delay us much at all right now, but the plan is still to be open by pool season next year.
Was that a motion?
You're making a motion that...
I will make the motion that we go with option 2 for $174,092.75 to coat the buttress system for the pool system.
Second.
All right, discussion. Magistrate Dye.
Gary, you said this particular piece of, I want to call it an I-beam for lack of better terms, okay? You're going to sandblast and coat the first 30 inches, is that the top 30?
Yes.
Okay, and how long is this I-beam?
How long is it?
Yeah, here's the top, and there's 30 inches. How much further down?
I mean, if you look at the pool, it goes from the gut right underneath the gutter system down to the bottom.
All right, how long is that? Yes.
I think it's 96.5 total. Is that right?
Something
About
like that.
8 foot.
Yeah.
All right. Why are they not coating the additional, let's say, 5 foot?
Because it is not in that bad a shape, and they feel that there's nothing wrong with it. It's still coated.
That's kind of a messed up answer. It's not that bad, but
the way I'm not an engineer, so I'm just going off what they've told me. The upper half is actually in gravel, whereas the bottom half is in dirt. For some reason, the dirt protected the buttresses better than the gravel did. And with the way our pool leaked, I mean, the concrete is pulled away, there's cracks in it, so water got in, and it just kind of settled in that gravel area. It just settled right on it. For some reason, it really went after the upper half of it. And they say the bottom half still looks good.
okay.
I mean, it was even their recommendation just to do the top.
Now, my question then would be, if I was the person asking the question in your group, have you ever done this before? Have you ever seen this before? Because my concern is, if you're fixing the upper portion, and I get the gravel versus the dirt concept, okay? I don't know how much validity there is to it, but it's a good story. But I'm concerned with, if you're fixing the top half, aren't you going to put more pressure on the bottom half to fail? Or not? I mean, is this a proven method to do it, or are we on the experiment stage here?
They have seen it.
Now, I don't mean in our pool, I mean someplace else.
There's three
No,
different.
they have seen it other places.
Okay.
The company that built our pool, they have seen it at every pool they built. And they've dealt with it. One pool, of course, is gone now, but
Yeah.
they've seen it and they've dealt with it in other pools. Yes.
And you got that in writing?
Magistrate Hawkins.
So to address that, there was one in Florence and another town where they did see it. But was it Somerset? Okay. We did talk about what Magistrate Dye had just said about what about the bottom part. And because it was protected by dirt, it also was protected. It did have a coat of something on it. It's just when the pool started leaking, it deteriorated the top portion, which was mostly gravel and dirt, whereas the bottom was secured by mostly dirt. Our meeting a couple of weeks ago at the Parks Committee, our Charlie Schneider, our contractor, had stated that the integrity of the steel was not compromised and has not been compromised. We could do nothing, and it would probably last 10 plus years. But as a committee, we thought that we should protect those top 30 inches that are damaged. And that's why they gave us two options. They gave us two quotes, one to do the top 30, one to do the whole thing. And a lot of that cost would be labor to dig up. Charlie says about 200 buttresses in order to get all the way to the bottom. And we thought that was kind of excessive.
Well, they have to suck all that
they'd have
rock out. They can't go in and dig it. They have to suck it out.
Because then that would compromise.
Because if you try and dig it, you're going to hit the buttresses and destroy them even more.
Damage. So as a committee, we evaluated everything and have been for a few weeks now and determined that the $174,000 option was probably the better of the three options. One of the options being do nothing.
Magistrate Hounds.
I heard you say that they think that this is going to be the last surprise.
I asked them today.
Yes.
I said, okay, we still haven't gotten into the pump room, and we haven't gotten into the surge pit. I said, do you foresee any issues in those areas? I want to know now, so we can. And he said, no, because all the piping, they're replacing all that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't see anything with the concrete slab underneath the pump house. He doesn't see it sagging. He doesn't see any issues with that. I asked about the walls of the surge pit. Is there concern there? He said, concrete is what it is, but if we see a crack, we seal it and fix it. And there again, piping, they're going to seal around it. All that will be sealed up. They don't foresee anything else. That's what I've been told twice now.
I wish we would have held off on the slide until we got all this stuff figured out, because I think that would have changed some people's view of the slide.
How much did we commit for a new slide?
$350,000, I believe.
I thought it was 350.
350.
Is that,
I believe it was like $350.
That's the new commitment or total cost of the slide?
That's total cost. That's getting that $60,000 credit.
It was 310 of new money.
Okay, 310.
Okay. I knew it was somewhere right around there.
I'm going to state my opinion here, and it's a minority opinion, and I think, and I've had this opinion from the beginning, but it has not prevailed. I believe our city, our county needs at least a combination of indoor, outdoor, pool, aquatic center. I raised the question, are we a first-tier county or a second-tier county? I believe that, we can maybe I want to be first-tier county. I believe everybody sitting here wants to be a first-tier county. I think people in our community are looking for a year-round swimming opportunity. We have teams of practice elsewhere outside the county. But it's not just school. There are other people who swim. And I believe we have the resources to do it. We started off with, we've had several different amounts of money budgeted for this project. Right now, we just had $525,000 of extra expenses come our way. I'm not going to criticize our consultant. We chose him, and I believe in him. But the people that built our pool also built several other pools we've been made aware of that have had failure issues. Now, I'm not sure if our consultant found out after our pool had these failure issues that the same group built other pools, or if they knew that before they got into our pool. We didn't ask them that. I would go on good faith that they're giving us a good amount of advice and a good thing. But we've had two things, change orders come up out of the woodwork here that we didn't know about, and now we're swallowing hard to go forward. At the meeting this morning, brought this up again, and I'm a minority. I think everybody wants to do the best. I don't doubt that at all, but we don't all agree if we can go forward and spend as much as is what we required for a new indoor aquatic center. Could be up to $12, $13 million range. I think we can afford it. Others don't. This is a fair disagreement. And I think this morning we reached an informal consensus that if we go forward with repairing and fixing and rebuilding our existing pool, that we will make a real serious effort and look to create a glass bubble of some kind over the top of our 8 lanes and possibly shift the restroom facilities to the other side of the pool, between the pool and the John Black Center, put in a viewing area for people to watch kids swim and so forth. These are ideas that came up that are free form but don't have any drawings or concrete engineering put forward. So I think we've got to get to this point, though, where we have year-round opportunity for the people in our community. I think we need it. Other communities are stepping up, and yes, it costs money to operate a pool, but we're spending a lot of money for 90 days, and and it shuts down. It's Memorial Day to Labor Day, and I think we could do better. And so I'm very conflicted on how I'm going to have to vote to go forward because everybody wants to do this, but I think we have to make a serious effort to get an indoor facility here, and so.
And I don't disagree with you. We want to make sure that it's done correctly. We want to make sure that location and our planning is correct so that we don't have this issue 20 years from now. We've made a commitment to our community that we're going to have a pool open next year, and this gets us to that point. And again, the Parks Committee has made that pledge this morning to take up the possibility of a natatorium, either there at that existing location or somewhere else. But I see us in the very near future having that option for our community. But right now, our goal is to get this pool open next year, and this gets us there.
Measure Tice.
One thing our architect talked to us in our meeting today was, even if in the future we build a natatorium or that's done, that will never replace the need or having an outdoor pool. That's only an extra. He says the outdoor pool is used by far more in the 90 days that it's opened by a lot more people. So even if you say, well, let's don't do anything right now, what we need to do is maintain our outdoor pool. I mean, you need an outdoor pool that's functional, and we just need to go forward with this and hope that we don't have any more surprises. We ask those questions. We're doing everything we can. But I think that's the thing I believe we need to do, is continue with this, get it done, and then go down the other avenues in the future.
Judge, I had
Manage
one
your
question.
license.
On this item number 2, where you say replacement steel / welding contingency, what is that? Did I miss something?
Replace, in case they run across any of those steel beams that need to be replaced.
Well, I said in case, so that's not 170, it could be $115,000 less,
It's 15,000. It's just 15,000.
but it could be 159.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe the motion should say up to? Is that what you're getting at, or you're not
Leave
getting
the
at
motion.
anything?
Leave it the way it is.
I'd say,
that's what
don't
the bid
put a
is.
cap on it. I mean, then we'll put ourselves in a corner here.
Backs us into a hole.
Okay, well, we've had a motion and a second to go ahead with the supporting of the walls of the pool at $174,000. Any further comments? All in favor, please say. Magistrate Dye?
I'm not going to support this from what you told me earlier, that these pools, that this company that makes these pools has addressed every one of them multiple times in multiple places. Is that what you said?
I'm
The
sorry?
other pools, they've had this run into the same problem?
This is
Yes,
not the
but
same
not this
pool
company.
company.
Not this
But
company.
this type of pool, though.
That
Besides
pool
that,
company-
The company that built this pool built other pools that have had the same failures.
Okay,
Doesn't-
I don't mean the company that you're working with, the people that actually built the pool,
I know, but
okay? And they've
But-
had the same problem with other pools that they built in other locations that people have had to repair, right?
Yes,
yes.
but they're not in
Okay.
business anymore.
Well, it would seem to me that if anybody would have done their due diligence, that's exactly where they would have went to in the very beginning. That was, they said, well, we got this leak problem. This is where we need to start looking. And they didn't have to do all this excavation. They could have went anywhere on the side of that pool where one of these piers were, dug down and said, there's your problem.
But you have concrete over all of that. You can't dig down. I mean,
know, but you didn't have to dig up the whole apron to find this one problem. And then they could have determined what their course of action would have been. We've spent a lot of money getting to something that now they tell us has been a repeating problem with this particular structure.
I'm kind of lost on what you're saying. I mean, another company built it.
Here's the
and
problem. We
we're-
didn't do any exploratory work, but that wasn't our plan. Our plan was to do the exploratory work of the repair of the pool at the same time of doing the repair. We made that decision. And Magistrate, I understand where you're going. That's water under the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Give it up.
Okay. I'm still not going to support it.
You don't have to.
Okay. And for that reason, they could have short-circuited a lot of this
We
work
chose
in
to do it
time.
this way.
By going to where they knew where the problem existed, or they could have at least found out about it. It's my opinion.
Well, I don't disagree with you on one hand. On the other hand, there's, for us to sit here and Monday morning quarterback this thing is probably not fair to the person that might be, doesn't have a chance to defend himself or whatever.
I understand that. I'm thinking,
we all know that every time you're doing anything, change orders come up. And this is a hard one. These are two hard ones to swallow. But, I agree that the ship has sailed. And unless we're going to scrap the whole thing and start over,
I didn't
which
say
I
you
was
had
willing to do, but nobody else is.
I didn't say you had to do that. I was just telling you what my vote
We got to
is.
go forward.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I agree with the Parks Committee's recommendation. I think that, we're to the point, we've spent this amount of money. We've committed to, getting a pool open by, next May. And so, I will support this or whatever. I do have concerns, about the discussion on an auditorium. I mean, I think that's a lot more dollars and not only the cost of the facility itself, but then you've got the, the additional cost for staffing it 300 plus days a year. And so, I think that's a larger discussion that we will need to have moving forward. But I think at this point, where we are, I think, we've got to move forward and we've got to get this pool back built and back open, hopefully by next May. And I hope we can get that done. And so I will support this motion that's being proposed by the Parks Committee today.
All right, I think we've exhausted the subject. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 8-1. Thank you.
Judge?
Yes,
Gary,
sir.
can you call him today because he was time sensitive on getting this stuff so the crew said they could get back to work tomorrow on the project? Thank you, Gary. Excuse me, Judge.
All right, I think we're going to wind this up. Well, we're going to go to an executive session here, so if we need a personal break, we'll get that in just a few minutes. For personnel actions here, Ms. Schaaf.
This afternoon, we have some personnel actions for the police department. We have a new hire, Brian Bramlett. He's a 5-year lateral, $32.70 a base hourly rate, and that's going to be effective on the 7th of August, and he's a contract employee, so that contract is also attached.
All right, is there a motion to hire
So moved.
Mr. Bramlett?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All
We
right.
also are announcing today the resignation and retirement of Robert Lane, who has been with Oldham County for, I'm not exactly sure how long, but it's been a long time.
It's a total of 12 years.
12
This-
years.
This
all
last
right.
stint was about 8.
Yes, he came from ABC to us, and we wish Robert, he's been one of our police officers, wish him a very effective and happy and prosperous retirement, and thank him for his service to Oldham County. Engineer's office, we have a promotion here.
Right. It's Lee Thompson. We're going to promote him to the senior site inspector at $29.74 an hour, and that's effective tomorrow.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor of promoting Lee Thompson, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. We also have to, going to announce from dispatch the resignation of Mickey Tolles. That was effective yesterday. Thank Mickey for her service and wish her well in the future. All right, thank you.
Right. I have one more resignation,
Okay.
Judge, from Lauren Cox from the police department, and that's
All right.
effective on the 13th of August.
All right. I didn't have that on my sheet,
I
but
know.
I'm
Came
aware
this
of that.
afternoon.
I guess we found out about that. 13th of August for
Mm-hmm.
Lauren Cox from the
Is that
police department.
Officer?
Yes.
Right. And so that's informational purposes. We
Right.
won't vote on that today, so.
Right.
All right, thank you. Time now for our second public comment. Did I miss something here? Okay, yeah, thank you. Second public comment, is there anybody here who would like to address the court at this point? Ask you to state your name and address.
John Lackner, 1704 Mahogany Run Drive, LaGrange. Just would like to thank you for voting on the pool. Been looking forward for it for a couple of years, so, and as far as you're concerned, I'm a registered professional engineer in Kentucky and Michigan, and don't worry about the rust on the stainless steel. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else to address the fiscal court before we go to? All right, seeing no one, I'm going to close the public comment and make a motion now. We go into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810 subsection B, deliberations on the future acquisition or sale of real property by a public agency. And included in the executive session will be our County Attorney Barry Baxter and Deputy Judge Kevin Nuss. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Roll call.
That came with.
All right, the magistrates have now returned to the fiscal court chamber. As a motion, we would go back into session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're going to continue on with our meeting now, and we'll get to our really final comments here today. Magistrate Likens, do you have anything you'd like to add at the end of the meeting?
No, thank you, Judge.
All right, Magistrate Tice.
Not today, Judge, thank
All
you.
right, Magistrate Woosley.
Just want to mention the fair starts tonight, runs through Saturday. They've got lots of bands and events planned this week. Nick Wilt, who came home this week, had a really nice, LaGrange came out and did that really nice when he was coming home. The Oldham County Schools opening day is August 9th, so watch out for additional traffic, especially those school buses. Today is my second favorite magistrate's birthday, Steve Greenwell. Even though he's not here anymore, we just want to wish him a happy birthday. And finally, over the last couple of weeks, there's been several suicides by our residents. Just want to remind everybody that there's a 511 hotline, no, 811.
988.
988, that you can call for mental health.
What's that number one more time?
988.
All right.
988.
So don't feel bad to reach out if you need it. And that's all I have, Judge.
Magistrate Jeffries.
Yes, Judge, just one thing. August 7th, Blakemore Lane is going to be closed for at least 2 weeks, possibly 3 weeks. They're going to be installing or upgrading LG&E gas line out there. My understanding from talking to our county engineer is that they're going to, when they're actually working, the road will be closed and you'll have to detour around. While they're not working in evenings and on the weekends, it will be open. So it's going to be, somewhat problematic out there on Blakemore Lane after starting on August 7th. So hopefully we can get a little more information out once we get the map finalized and where the actual detour will be. But that will be somewhat disruptive in that area. So just want to pass that on.
Magistrate Hounds.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Just to echo what Magistrate Woosley said, school is starting. There'll be a lot of new drivers driving to school for the first time. And the school zones, as Judge mentioned earlier, ask people to obey those speed limits and look out for people that are crossing the road. Also, too, that like Magistrate Woosley said, several fire departments participated when Mr. Wilt came home, and we had 53 lined up, and it was pretty cool from Crystal Drive all the way to First Street. It was completely lined with emergency services, and I think that made him smile quite a bit as he came through. He does have a long road ahead of him, and ask everybody to keep him in your continued prayers.
Magistrate Hawkins.
Nothing today, Judge. Thank you.
Magistrate Dye.
Thank you, Judge. Earlier today, there was a bit of a topic of the handguns getting stolen out of automobiles. See, and even if the door is unlocked, it was brought up that maybe you could enact some sort of an ordinance to curb that by making the owner of this handgun responsible if it was used in the commission of a crime. My estimation is if your handgun got stolen, you just wouldn't report it stolen, and that would get you off the hook.
That's right.
But the real problem here is not that happened. The real problem is if you, you have the right to bear arms, but it seems like some people shirk the responsibility of owning the arms but not taking care of it in a proper manner. I mean, around the home, you should use, a gun lock. And leaving, you read about it in the paper every so often where they lock somebody up at the airport because they forgot they had a .45 automatic in their luggage. I just begin to wonder, are these responsible gun owners, or maybe are not? But if you have a handgun, which I have several, but they're not like toys. I take care of them because they are a dangerous piece of equipment. So please, be a little smarter about your handgun. You're smart about your laptop, or your wife is smart about her purse. So just get wise and take care of it because it could save someone's life. Thank you.
Magistrate Logston.
Just a few things, Judge. When you're the last one, most people have already said everything. So I want to welcome everybody who's coming to the Oldham County Fair this week. You know, fair to tradition. I grew up going to the Oldham County Fair, so special to my heart. I want to give condolences to Judge Dwayne Murner's family. Judge, if you grew up in Oldham County, Judge was a great part of this county. He pushed the county forward, did a great job. And I also wanted to thank Robert Lane for his service to Oldham County. One morning, to share one story with you, I was I go to Starbucks, and because of my office across the street, about 5:30, 6 o'clock every morning, and they weren't open that day, so I pulled over to the BP gas station across the street to get a cup of coffee. And all of a sudden, cops' cars just surrounded my car, and I thought, what the heck? I didn't even see them coming. Then Officer Lane jumped out of the car, and this guy was walking down the sidewalk with no shoes on. And he said, don't waste your life, just lay down. He had a gun on him. And he said, don't waste your life. It's not worth it. The guy laid down. Very professional. I can't even speak enough about Officer Lane. He was a total gentleman, really cared about what he did, really cared about this community. So thank you, Officer Lane.
All right, thank you. I'm going to bring this up now here, and intended actually to bring it up before we went to our final comments, but I should have done it then. A couple of weeks ago, the Rogers Group was here and presented fiscal court with a check for, I believe it was $33,500 to. This is was for law enforcement for additional armor for our police department, individuals that can wear different types of armor, and we appreciated that very much. During the course of the presentation of the check from the Rogers Group, they suggested that we donate $5,000 of the $33,500 to the Louisville Police Memorial for Officer Nicholas Wilt. So I'd like to make a motion that the fiscal court go ahead now and allow us to provide that check.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Again, our sympathy to Ann, the children of his wife, the children and grandchildren of a former county judge, Dwayne Murner. Dwayne, we worked with Dwayne and enjoyed his service, admired his ability and his skill, and he gave a lot to serve the people of Oldham County. So we're sorry about his passing, and we'll finally remember him in the days and years to come as someone who stood up in Oldham County at the right time and was a good person on carrying the torch forward. So remember Dwayne Murner. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.